I've got the main display tank back set up, and last night we had an interesting issue. This Jaboa return pump, which is 4 years old, failed. Now this didn't really cause a problem within the tank, it just meant the water level raised in the sump and dropped in the display tank. So what was interesting, if you look in the graph here, you can see at around 1 o'clock that pump failed, and here you can see the display tank temperature dropping, and it didn't drop much. It got down to 23.875 degrees, but at the same time the sun temperature went up. I got up this morning and I could hear a strange noise from the tank, which was air being sucked through the return pump nozzle outlet. So all I've done to correct this at the moment while I wait for a replacement pump is I have turned the second pump up slightly to get more water coming out from the sump, and here you can see already the temperature is going up in the display and down in the sump. Now the sump is going to be slightly higher always because at the moment the heaters are all in the sump. This event also did show up in the ESP controller I've got set up, which I may eventually add the emergency heater onto this, which would have then stepped in and turned the heater on in the display tank, keeping the tank at the right temperature. But that is a future project which is still a work in progress. So hopefully this demonstrates why it's worth even having the Raspberry Pi just as a monitor, so you can capture this information. Now at the moment this is only live information, and this would be lost if I rebooted the Raspberry Pi. So I'm going to be looking at using a database to store these readings, so I can have different graphs showing different timescales, that if the Raspberry Pi was to be rebooted, I don't lose that data. And I think the other thing it points out is it always pays. And I think the other thing this points out, it always pays to have a backup system in place. Hence why when I set the sump up, I put 2 return pumps into the return chamber in case one ever did fail. But I've also done it because in the past I've had one of the pumps connected to the Raspberry Pi, and if the sump return got blocked and the emergency drain failed, as the tank water level rose, it would turn off one of the pumps. So that's another feature I will be putting into this one, but obviously at the moment, because I'm trying to do most of it in Node-RED, it's a bit of a learning curve to get it all set up. Now a lot of these have been tested in the past in my version 1 controller, but that had all been programmed mainly in Python and just used Node-RED for the graphical interface. So the thing for me is, obviously while I'm experimenting and still setting this up in Node-RED, I am trialing different flows to see which work, and at the moment I've reverted back to this one. Now obviously I'm trying to tidy the screen up and this needs deploying. So what I've done now is I've coloured the groups, so I know this is all the Raspberry Pi and this will be ESP32, and basically this is why I've gone to this one. I prefer this one because whenever I deploy it, if I use the other one, which was this one, which is disabled at the moment, and I've removed the inject node that connects the one wire, every time you deployed it, you did get a false reading coming through, which then affected the data on the graph. That's why I've got this one. At the moment I've also, I think I've shown this already, this is just the heartbeat part of the Raspberry Pi, so I need it. And then this is the project I'm working on at the moment for the auto top off. For me, Node-RED is very powerful. It just means I've got to learn some Java programming as well as learning some of the different tricks within Node-RED. It's certainly worth learning Node-RED if you want to do some interesting projects with a Raspberry Pi. If you're already using Node-RED and you can see some better ideas or better ways I could do this, please feel free to leave a comment or send an email to the email address that's mentioned in the channel info. And if the suggestion seems good, I will possibly add it to my flow and demonstrate it in the future. Anyway, thank you for watching.